Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about a cheap iMac that he says isn't cheap.
Fire.
And we also talk about an SSD, which is actually a more exciting topic than a small grey metal box would have you believe. Let's start with news in the world of Apple. So this new cheap iMac then, Matt.
It's not cheap.
It's £250 cheaper than the iMac was before, the entry-level iMac. You can now buy an iMac for less money than it was before.
Yeah. Yes. You can buy a different iMac for less money than they cost before.
That's true. But if you want an iMac, it now costs less money to get one.
Yes.
But we had a little chat, didn't we, Matt, about this in the office?
It was a good chat. Yeah.
Yeah. It was impassioned. It was an argument, basically.
Robust.
But let's see if we can summarise this, ladies and gentlemen at home. I have here a series of statements about the new iMac. So the first one is that it is a cheap iMac.
No, it isn't.
Why not?
It's because it costs £900. It isn't cheap. It costs quite a lot of money. £900 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
And if someone who says that £900 is cheap is that
their idea of money
issue or something. Their idea of money is not in line with everyone's idea of money.
But you would at least allow that it is a cheaper iMac. Maths tells you it is.
Yes, I can't argue with the science. It's cheaper. Definitely, it is a less expensive way of getting into iMacs. The iMac Collectors Club.
Okay, next one up is Apple should not have made this iMac. I'm going to repeat that because of Mike's and me doing that. Apple should not have made this iMac.
I have no strong opinion on that topic. There are lots of reasons to make something other than to make it a bargainous 900 quid. There's an element of getting it below 900 quid. Maybe Apple knows something we don't about sales. They think sales will go up if they can just get it below £900 or what is it, $1,100?
Something like that.
In the US, maybe there's something about that price point. Although you'd think getting it under $1,000 would have been the key one.
It's well under £1,000 pounds at least.
Yes,
it's not just on. It's not 999 kind of thing. It's 899.
It is exactly
it just is.
So it may be that Apple thinks that there could be a spike in sales by selling one specifically at that kind of price point, or it could be there's the old psychological thing that many businesses do. The one you think you'll sell most of is the middle one in your range, let's say. So you make a lower end one that is a bit crap and is there to make the middle one look like a better deal.
And also to make the from XXX price look good. iMac from 899.
Yeah, which is, a helpful thing depending on where and how you sell.
Yeah.
But yeah, the key thing is it is purely an upselling tool. It is there for you to say, but this one looks a lot better and is only 150 quid more expensive. And the person in the shop goes, well, I think that's the one you should buy.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other psychological trick of if you offer someone gold, silver and bronze packages for something. Advertising agencies use this. Nobody wants to think they're a bronze candidate.
A bronze buyer. But you said...
Despite the fact that the bronze package might actually be a very good package. But
yeah, you said that you didn't think Apple would launch the iMac just for the psychological boost of the next one up.
I doubt it. It doesn't feel right.
I agree. It doesn't feel like Apple just to do it for that purpose, especially since the iMac doesn't represent a huge portion of Apple's business.
No, even the
its
laptop,
Mac business.
Yeah, exactly. The laptops are the things that sell. Right, here's the next one. Let's see how this one goes. Nobody should buy this iMac.
Obviously, not literally nobody. We talked. I can imagine 2 or 3 people whose specific set of needs.
Do you mean types of people, or literally two?
No,
or
I mean
three
literally
people?
2 or 3 people. I can imagine, whose specific set of needs is exactly matched by this iMac. But otherwise, I think it's a crap deal, and there are near as might as well be nobody should buy this iMac. In my opinion, I would advise against it.
See, I wouldn't, because
we haven't used one yet. I should say.
No, that's true. We
haven't tried it.
No, we haven't tested it.
This isn't a review.
We will be testing it and putting it through its paces. It's basically the guts of a MacBook Air inside in terms of the CPU and GPU. Obviously, it has twice the RAM of the entry-level MacBook Air, and it has a 500 gig, quite slow hard disk,
very slow
rather
hard
than
disk.
the
no SSD.
Yeah, which is going to really affect the performance of it. But I think basically a huge number of people, a vast percentage of the buying public's computing needs are actually incredibly modest, and I think to make them spend more money is for better performance is wrong. We shouldn't be doing that.
Well, it depends, because if someone came to me and said, I want to be doing iMovie, I would encourage them to spend more money because on the next iMac up, let's say, because that has a quad-core processor that is a lot faster generally than the relatively slow dual-core processor that's in this new iMac. But generally, I wouldn't tell people to spend more money. My issue isn't like I think everyone should spend more than this 900 quid. It's that I think they should spend less. You can get a MacBook Air, the sort of the entry-level one, for £750, and a 22-inch IPS display that's 1080p. So it will be basically the same as the iMac's one. I don't know if it'll be exactly as good, but nearly, for 100 quid. That total cost is £850, which is £50 less than the iMac.
And you've got a laptop.
That it's as powerful as. And you've got a laptop, you've got flexibility, and it's got an SSD rather than a hard drive.
So it'll feel much faster.
Exactly. So I like, I can't imagine saying, yes, you should definitely spend the £900 and not the £850 on what is
a more flexible,
better performing, more flexible system. Like this iMac seems like a bad deal to me.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments. Is this an £800, £900 rather iMac something that you would buy? Are there people you think should be buying it? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on
to the wider world of tech. So this week, Amazon has launched its Fire Phone.
It has,
which, as a name for a range of electronic products, continues to be slightly terrifying. Kindle was at least passive. Fire is
actually raging, harming
going
you,
to cause you pain. But here we are with a Fire Phone launching in the US. At least doesn't sound like we'll get it here soon, if ever. But it's got some whizzy stuff. It's got a sort of 3D interface, not 3D. Like the Nintendo 3DS or something, where you get a different image to both eyes.
Yes, and not holographic as some pre-announcement renders had it.
Yes, despite holograms
not being a thing, really.
Not being consumer tech yet. But it's got this interface where it's more like the screen is a window, and it's like the interface exists in this box below the window, and as you tilt the screen, you can see different areas in the box. Wow, that's a terrible description.
It sounds like it should be quite disappointing. We've seen things like this in the past, but actually from the demos we've seen, it looks like Amazon, I mean, you can argue that it's a stupid USP for a phone to have, possibly, but it looks like Amazon has absolutely nailed the tech for it. And they've got 4 cameras on the device.
But there's 6 cameras in total.
But there are 4 cameras just doing the tracking of your head to know where you are, to measure Z distance. And the reason there's 4 is because of the way you hold it, you might cover up some of the cameras because they're in the corners. And there's 4 infrared lights as well, so it can be used in darkness as well. But they seem to have, like in the demo, it looked like it was buttery smooth, really. Where does buttery smooth come as a phrase? We're all saying it now.
Are we?
Yeah, buttery scrolling, and Federighi was all about buttery scrolling.
I had croissants for breakfast, and then I had real buttery scrolling issues for that.
It looks good.
Yes, well,
it looks like it really, really works. The technology, at least, the application for the technology.
You'd assume that Amazon has enough pride and enough nous.
Expertise.
Is that a word people are using?
Don't do it with that hand action.
Can I start nous as the new buttery scrolling? You assume Amazon is smart enough and has enough desire to come off well to make sure this tech works, so it's going to include it. But I've seen people say that the actual interface is not so good. So
I'm also amused because you can sort of flick it to bring in panels from the side, and I've just got visions of people sort of throwing phones.
Why is Amazon discriminating against RSI sufferers?
But why has it done it? I still can't get a handle on.
Well, there's a theory about it being a shopping device,
Yeah.
because it's got this button on the side that instantly lets you take a picture of a product and find it on Amazon.
Yeah, it will do other stuff as well. It can recognize URLs, as Jeff Bezos called them.
URLs. Yes.
URLs. It will recognize your friend Earl.
Recognize owls.
It will recognize URLs and phone numbers and stuff from like bill postings they kept showing off. Like if there's an apartment for rent, you could pick up the number automatically and dial it.
Yeah, that stuff is,
which is quite nice.
Kind of cool. I've forgotten about that.
But the shopping cart thing is interesting, because a lot of people have really hated on Amazon because they've produced a phone which is expensive.
Yes, it's iPhone price.
Yeah.
It's iPhone level.
And B is seen by some as merely a win for capitalism.
A conduit to commercialism.
Yeah.
I'm not massively down. We know what Amazon's business is. I wouldn't buy a phone based on the ease with which I can buy things from Amazon. At the end, I don't have enough money to spend £600 on a phone and then buy everything I can see. That's not a goer for me. Maybe for some people it is, and that's fine. I'm not going to bicker out.
The same sort of people who called a £900 iMac cheap, possibly.
For example.
Yes.
It doesn't seem for me on the off chance. There's a few things that could make it interesting though. The APIs for the Tilty stuff is available to devs and game devs, stuff like that.
And we saw game demos during the keynote as well.
Exactly. So there's potential for cool reasons to buy it, but it's new, it's untested, it seems an awful lot of money to gamble on a shopping device. The
shopping cart thing though I think doesn't quite ring true for me, because I know there's a lot of people who would sort of push against that thing, but I think for a lot of people who are very much bought into Amazon, they've got Amazon Prime, which in the States is a very, very good deal, with a lot of good package of services as well as your next day shipping. I can imagine, it seems stupid a little bit to me, but it's not a big mental leap for me to get from there to somebody doing their weekly shopping for groceries with Firefly and having it delivered from Amazon.
Before we move on quickly, it does have a few cool things that really shouldn't be glossed over in terms of being gimmickry or whatever. Its screen is about 20% brighter than the iPhone's, and it has a polarizing filter.
A circular polarizing filter as well, so it will be viewable in all orientations, even if you're wearing polarizing sunglasses.
Yes, because when they're kind of vertical or whatever, it means if you turn them at an angle, you might not be able to see your screen if you're wearing polarized glasses. But that's going to make it so much easier to view in sunlight. That's a thing. That's really good. And unlimited cloud storage for photos, what you take on it. Because they've made loads of effort with the camera, optical image stabilization, and an even faster shutter.
A global rolling shutter.
Global rolling shutter, and the f2.0
it's a fast lens.
Faster than the iPhones even. So
there's some good stuff there.
They've nailed a few areas.
If you're watching this, I suspect that you don't probably want to buy an Amazon phone. You're probably in the Apple world.
Probably, but what are the features you'd like to see Apple nick from it, or would you consider switching to one if it came where you are, which if you're not in the US it won't, to be honest.
Probably.
But hey, let's move on to your SSD.
Yeah, leave that down below. Let's perform some open heart surgery on my personal laptop, but actually it's much simpler than it sounds. Now, we have been saying for years that SSDs are awesome.
They are awesome. They have been for those years.
For those years, they have been awesome because they're incredibly fast, which makes you think that just makes a difference to copying files or whatever, but it actually makes a huge difference to the responsiveness of your Mac in general, because of especially if you've got not much RAM and it's paging RAM out to the hard disk, or in this case the SSD.
Which is handy, but it's things like at startup, what they're good is getting lots of information from different areas. Very, very quickly at once, basically. So, at boot, for example. So,
they've always been terrific, but they've always been very expensive. No more. Well, actually, this is still expensive, but I think for me, this is a real turning point. This is the moment we'll look back on as we reminisce about technology, where SSDs start to really hit the proper price performance.
The price drops in the last month or so have been dramatic.
So, I reviewed a 256 gig SSD a few years back from Crucial, which was £600 essentially. This one is 512 megabytes. It's
cheaper.
It's 512 gigabytes, professional journalist, and this one's £150. So 150 quid essentially for a half terabyte SSD is phenomenal. And what we're going to do is show you we're going to show you basically that it's very simple to fit one of these.
Please don't consider this instructional or safe.
Or indeed safe. Some Macs you can't do this with, basically. Some Macs obviously will be sealed, you can't get into them. Some Macs will have different connectors, but for basically sort of white MacBooks, everything up to the unibody.
White MacBooks are even easier than what we're
in some ways they are, all the way up to pre-Retina MacBook Pros and the old style Mac Minis. It's a piece of piss.
Yours is from 2008.
My MacBook Pro is from 2008, and actually part of the reason I'm still using this relatively ancient piece of technology is because of the SSD. It just gives it such longevity. It feels so snappy still.
When did you put the SSD in?
Oh, 4 years ago, maybe.
When they were first
When they were first sort of out
on the scene.
Yeah. So it will differ depending on your MacBook or your Mac. Basically, go to ifixit.com. They've got terrific guides to show you how to do stuff. But I'll show you mine just so you get an idea of how easy this is. On mine, we flip this latch. There is a screw just holding this little retaining thing in place. And then we can lever this out. That's the hard disk. Bosh. Now actually there are some little posts on here, some little mounting screws, which you'd need to take out using a Torx screwdriver. I'm not going to do that just for the demonstration. It takes a little while, but basically you just take those little guys out.
It's fiddly, but it takes 5 minutes.
Fit them on here, and then because it's the same connector, we just plug that in. Refit our retaining screw. Yeah.
Try not to poke the SSD too hard
Yeah.
with the metal pointy thing.
And then that's it.
Now, yours is particularly easy.
Yep.
I did some SSD tests on I think it was a 2010 MacBook Pro, and I had to take the entire shell off.
Yes, you got to take the
but
back
once I
off.
had the entire shell, the shell of the back,
It's the same thing.
it was the same thing. The hard drive was just in a corner. It was the one screw out, replace these little divot bits that we just talked about, pop it back in the bracket,
And then
pop the back on.
all you need is something that will you could get buy a drive caddy if you like. They're 5 or 15 quid on Amazon. Or
Just point your Fire phone at the screen now.
something like this, which is basically just a little USB to SATA adapter, and we just plug that in. I can then boot from that drive, or I can boot from the recovery partition on that drive, and then clone everything across to the SSD.
Yeah,
so it'll take a little while.
Basically, move everything from that to your SSD, and your Mac is exactly as it was before, except faster.
Much faster.
How
so
much faster?
Well, we have some benchmarks here. I'm reviewing this drive. You'll see the review in the next issue of MacFormat. But to give you an idea, now the place where these are very good is with small file sizes. So the hard disk that I took out from my from MacBook Pro. Actually, I don't think that was necessarily the original hard disk that was in this Mac, but it's of a similar.
Equivalent.
It's 5400 RPM drive. We'll get about 10 megabytes per second sequential write speeds with small file sizes.
And sequential is what?
I'm sorry. I mean random. Random, which is the tough test, because with a hard disk you have to move the actuator. You're having to really skitter about on the disk surface to find stuff. So 10 megabytes per second for there. On in my MacBook, which is the older style SATA 2 connector, it gets 120 megabytes per second.
Over a 12-fold increase.
It is indeed a 12-fold increase. And if I put it into an even newer Mac that's got SATA 3, because obviously the SATA 2 is acting as a bottleneck in that instance, it gets 194. And the speeds go much higher than that. That's just for small file sizes. If you're doing big file sizes, you'll see speeds in excess of 500 megabytes per second if you're on a SATA 3 connector.
That's quite fast.
And it's 150 quid. It is an amazing deal.
They've got to the point where they are... Essential upgrades is perhaps too strong a word, especially if you're like me and you've got an iMac and changing it would be a horrible nightmare. But if you've got an older machine like this, because your point is that the processor is still good enough.
It's fine.
It's
the
capable
responsiveness of the whole machine that the SSD really has a huge makes a huge difference.
The slowness eventually drives you nuts, but with an SSD, you still don't feel the need particularly to upgrade this.
It's fine. Happy days. Please buy an SSD. It'll make a huge difference in your life. Let us know in the comments below, especially if you have done that and you have reaped the rewards, and let other people know how good a thing it is to do.
It is a very good thing. Don't forget that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacFormatUK. You can watch any of our previous episodes of the Extravaganza, or you can, and in fact, not or. You should do all of these, but the last one is especially good. You can get a free trial of the Whizzy Interactive MacFormat iPad edition at macformat.com/iPad.
Easy for you to say. See you next week.
Bye. Good. Clap. Thanks.